let's talk about anime Jesus. I'm not even joking when I say that. If you guys wanted to know who the Japanese version of Jesus was, then you're looking at his anime incarnation. But before I get started on Amakusa Shiro Tokisada and who he is, I'm gonna make a request of you guys. You know how this is a democracy, right? I post a poll and then you guys vote on who I cover next. Well, listen, I would really appreciate it if you went and voted for the caster of Red. You know, this useless character? Because that's just who I'd prefer to cover next. In the end, it really comes down to what you guys decide, so it can't really be helped, but you know, I think it'd be pretty cool to talk about anime Shakespeare. Anyway, let's get into who you're here to see for this episode, the ruler of the Third Holy Grail War and the leader of the Red faction, Shirou Kotomine. Now, it's been a while since my last ruler video, so I'll give you a quick refresher on the ruler class. It's a specialized one that is only summoned when the Holy Grail War requires moderation. The Grail has determined that someone or something is breaking the rules, and summons the ruler class to make sure that everything proceeds smoothly. So we already know why Jean was summoned for this war, but I believe the question that you'd like answered would be why was Shirou summoned as ruler for the Third Holy Grail War, and why did he not disappear when it ended? Because, as we've seen in the past versions of the Fate series, the Third Holy Grail War never had a ruler. So what changed in this timeline that resulted in Shirou having to be summoned? Which you should already know is no small feat in itself either, since as I've said before and pretty much mentioned just now, you pretty much have to be Jesus to be summoned as a ruler class, or the next closest thing, which is a saint. Which means no desire for the Grail and no wish that needs to be fulfilled. Which brings us to Shirou's interesting case, since he clearly has a desire for the Grail. I mean, we hear him say almost every episode that he wants to bring salvation to mankind. So how did he even end up getting summoned as the ruler in the first place? Well, all that will be answered, but as always, let's first talk about who he was back when he was alive. Unless you're familiar with Japanese history, it's very unlikely that you've heard the name Amakusa Shiro before. But he is based off of a historical figure, just like all the other servants. The historical Shiro lived a short life of 17 years back in the early 1600s, the Edo period. He was born of Catholic parents and became seen as essentially a holy person because he was said to perform miracles from time to time. But his name has been passed down the ages not because of those miracles, but rather because of his actions during the Shimabara Rebellion. This is claimed to be a religious uprising of Japanese Christians against the Shogunate, but there was a mix of factors that led to this outbreak of unrest in an otherwise peaceful time. The first would be the insertion of new power over the land. The Arima clan had previously ruled over Shimabara and they were a Christian group, thus many of the people who lived there were also Christian. When the Arima clan was replaced by the Matsukura clan, many Christians became persecuted for their conflicting beliefs. Not only that, but heavy taxes were being put in place in order to fund the creation of a new castle. Losing money is enough to make any person get angry, but the poor treatment of those who were Christian led to the plotting of an uprising. Shirou was the closest thing to God that the people had at the time, and since they were just a group of peasants and ronin, he was selected as the person who would lead the rebellion, and this was when he was only 16 years old. Shirou led his group to Hara Castle and successfully took it over from the Shogunate. The fact that Shirou was able to lead a group of mere peasants and disowned samurai to momentary victory is what grants him his legend. These are a group of people who should have had no chance in beating trained warriors, but yet they were still able to succeed. They were also able to hold off a few more assaults when the Shogunate force of 125,000 tried to take it back. But Shirou's mere force of around 40,000 was losing morale, and one of Shirou's men betrayed him and leaked information to the Shogunate forces. With this information, the Shogunate was able to take back Hara Castle, and every single rebel was slaughtered in the process, including Shirou, who was first taken captive and then executed to have his head displayed on a pike in Nagasaki to ward off any more potential rebellions. It's said that his final words were, "I shall return after 100 years to take my revenge." From this, many Japanese Catholics consider Shirou to be a folk saint, which are people who were said to be very spiritual during their lifetime and considered saints by others, but not recognized fully as a saint by the church through canonization. So for example, Jean is a real saint, but Shirou isn't. Which brings me to the Fate version of Shirou's past. They referred to him as the Boy of Miracles, the closest thing to a saint that isn't a saint. They say that he was able to heal many wounds and even walked on water. Many started to call him the Son of God. But these miracles were attributed to his affinity to magecraft. Magic came naturally to Shirou, so naturally that he wasn't even aware that he was using it when he performed his miracles. Whenever his powers would manifest itself, it was always through his subconscious. Then the Matsukura came, and with them came the heavy taxes and famine. This led to mass despair, and many people's only salvation came in the form of Christianity. But once the Matsukuras started to persecute them even for that, they had enough. Shiro became their leader, and with the help of the Ronin, he started an insurrection. It was the mindset of the people who fought for their cause that bears a lot of parallels to Shiro's current goals. They fought to defend their beliefs, and even though they would be sacrifices, they thought that their sacrifice would help make the world become reborn. Shiro knew this as well, and even though he knew victory would not be possible, he still fought so that this new world would be achieved. But then the impossible happened. A miracle allowed Shiro and his forces to win. But Shiro knew that this shouldn't have happened. Only a few were supposed to die in order for the message to be sent. But now that they've taken the whole castle, the only message that the Shogunate would see would be a pointless rebellion that needs to be wiped out, and everyone would end up dying for it. So just as it happened in history, Shiro was able to defend the castle multiple times, but he ended up being betrayed and information was leaked to the Shogunate commanders, who then used that to cut off their supply of food. The Shogunate moved in when they were at their weakest and slaughtered everyone except for the traitor and Shiro. Before Shiro was executed, his only thoughts were that his actions led to the slaughter of his people. He knew he may as well have killed them with his own hands. He accepted the loss and took responsibility for the lives of his people, but he just couldn't accept that all the work they'd done would just be for nothing. So before he died, Shiro made one last prayer. He said, "So God, give me another chance. Next time, I won't lose sight of the bigger picture. I will eliminate all obstacles, enemies, and hardships in my way. Next time, I will obtain all the good in the world. A world where everyone is happy, everyone is good, and everyone is perfect. I will exterminate all evil and create a new, pure world." And that's Shiro's past. Although he never came back 100 years later to get his revenge, he is back in Fate Apocrypha to create that world where everyone is happy, good, and perfect, to bring salvation to mankind. Now, since Shiro also has a past in the Third Holy Grail War, I'm gonna have to talk about that too before I get to his abilities. But since he's also got a long list of abilities, and I want to give a pretty thorough explanation of what had happened in the Third Holy Grail War, I'm gonna end this video here and post a part 2 tomorrow. I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but it's a bit easier on me if I split it up into 2 videos. I hope you understand, but as always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So until tomorrow, ciao!